Sex Education in the Gun High School Community, an SEC focus group by Mark Monroe, Gordy Lanza, Libby Craig, and Molly Barnes.
As unwanted pregnancy becomes more and more seen in popular culture, questions of gun sex ed curriculum began to rise. What are students really learning?
In order to learn more about the current sex ed curriculum in the Living Skills classes, we spoke to Brian Toomey, a Living Skills teacher. He said the focus of the unit was for younger grades was mostly anatomy and basics, and for the older students, he talked more about prevention, statistics, and treatment. The Community Health Awareness Center from Mountain View comes in for one day of the unit. Students give a presentation on an STD, and the students see graphic photos of STDs, and many agree that these are the most memorable part of the unit.
For our focus group research project, we came up with 3 objectives. First, to find out if gun sex education experience and curriculum are effective in helping gun students develop realistic expectations, knowledge, and street smarts about sex. And if not, our second objective would be to find ways to better gun sex ed in both the comfort levels of students and the efficiency in what they learn, and to better the sex ed curriculum.
We got our research from anonymous Living Skills students, Planned Parenthood, information on online sources, and student survey results.
We interviewed a male junior currently taking Living Skills to get more insight into how effective the sex education unit is. The student felt the explicit photos of STDs were very powerful and effective. He felt that the focus was on STDs more than various forms of birth control. Also, he thought that 5 days was not long enough for the sex ed unit.
We interviewed a Planned Parenthood Health Services specialist at the Planned Parenthood Center on San Antonio Road in Mountain View, which is part of the Maramonte branch. Planned Parenthood provides many teen services, including annual exams, testing and counseling for STDs, breast, cervical, and testicular cancer screening and counseling, HIV testing and counseling, pregnancy testing and counseling, and prenatal care. By California law, Planned Parenthood cannot tell parents, guardians, or others when a young person between the ages of 12 and 17 has tests, receives treatments, or talks about birth control, abortion services, prenatal care, pregnancy tests, STD testing and treatment, alcohol, cigarettes, tobacco, and drugs, personal, school, and family issues, or sex and sexuality issues without permission from the young person, unless he or she is being abused or involved with a person 10 years or older. Planned Parenthood has an education department in San Jose that goes to schools in the community and teaches a 5-day course. They go to schools for children ages 5th grade up to college and have been to PALI. The instructors are professional and medically accurate with their information on both birth control and STDs according to California requirements and laws. They also provide a podcast online for anyone to listen to. Speaking of Sex is available on iTunes and www.speakingofsexpodcast.org. It is a funny, informative place to help people understand more about sexuality and sex. People can ask questions and get involved with the podcast by going onto its Facebook or MySpace page.
From our online research, we gathered the following statistics. 82% of 750,000 teen pregnancies were unintended. Slightly more than 25% end in abortions. 1 in 3 teens by 2002 had never received formal instruction about contraception. 1 in 4 of sexually active teens have never received formal instruction about abstinence before sex. 1/4 of sexually active teens have never received formal instruction about abstinence before sex. More than 9 in 10 teachers believe that students should receive formal instruction on contraceptives, but 25% are prohibited from doing so. 1/3 of surveyed adults support abstinence-only education, while 1/2 of surveyed adults oppose it. At the moment, there are no federal programs that support an education that teaches both abstinence and contraception.
Recently, Johns Hopkins researcher Janet Rosenbaum took a study of 1,000 students. She looked at students who had taken a pledge of abstinence versus students who had not taken a pledge of abstinence. There was no difference in their sexual behavior. The only difference between the two groups of students is that the students who had taken a pledge of abstinence knew very little about birth control. Rosenbaum goes on to indicate that the lesson many students seemed to retain from their abstinence-only program was a negative and inaccurate view of contraception. Over $1.5 billion in federal money has been spent on abstinent-only education over the last 8 years.
We gave our surveys to 4 teachers to distribute in their classes. We felt that getting the surveys to both bio and living skills teacher was totally necessary. We made sure that our survey was as confidential as possible. We gave teachers 1 week to hand out their surveys to ensure the filling out process would not be rushed.
Student survey results.
The first question of our survey asked students, which of the following has given you the most information about sex? 29% of students responded they learned the most about sex from their bio class. 21% of students responded they learned the most about sex from their peers.
In the second question on our survey, students were asked what their sex education experience has been like. Students responded that their experiences have been mostly informative, beneficial, and positive. However, students were more split between comfortable and uncomfortable experiences.
The third question of our survey asked students, what do you feel the focus of your sex education was at Gunn? 51% of students said STDs was the focus of the sex education program. 32% said birth control, and 17% abstinence.
In the fourth question, students were asked what they would like to learn more about in terms of sex education at Gunn. 16% said they want to know more about abstinence, 41% said they want to know more about STDs, and 44% said they want to know more about birth control.
The fifth question of our survey asked students whether they feel prepared or unprepared for sexual activity outside of high school. The vast majority of students feel that they are either prepared or very prepared.
When asked whether they were sexually active, 88% of Gunn students said no, and 12% said yes.
The seventh question of our survey asked students how often do they use contraceptives when engaging in intercourse. The vast majority of students said either always or sometimes.
In the eighth question, when asked how easy it is to get contraceptives, 32% of the students said easy, 29% said very easy, 26% said moderate, 7% said very hard, and 3% said hard.
The ninth question of our survey asked students where they get contraceptives. 49% say the drugstore, 29% say Planned Parenthood, 11% say doctors, and another 11% say parents. The analysis of our research shows that Gunn has a great, effective sex ed program. It has a strong focus on STDs, a moderate focus on birth control, and a weak focus on abstinence. It produces students that feel sexually prepared for life after high school. Our only recommendation to change the program would be to extend the length and to put that extra time into learning about various forms of birth control. We initially went into this project fearing that the Gunn Sex Ed program was not preparing students for life after high school, but we were definitely proved wrong. Keep up the great work, Gunn.
Our group found that the majority of students found Gunn sex education to be beneficial, informative, and positive. However, according to one Living Skills student and from the data we collected, there seems to be a general consensus that the focus of the unit is on sexually transmitted diseases rather than forms of birth control and ways to obtain contraceptives. While the length of the unit should stay about the same, the focus of the unit needs to be shifted slightly from STDs to birth control. A health services specialist from Planned Parenthood said that teachers may be uncomfortable teaching birth control. However, she stressed the importance of students learning about both topics equally. Planned Parenthood's education branch in San Jose runs a community outreach program in which they conduct a week-long presentation on sex education. This group goes to many local high schools, including Pali. It may be beneficial to have this group come to Gunn and teach the sex education unit 2 living skills classes, as they are extremely well versed in the subject and presumably have more knowledge and are more comfortable teaching sex education than social studies teachers at Gunn.